Before we begin this podcast, please be advised that the following episode contains language that some listeners may find offensive and inappropriate. The opinions expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not reflect the views of the podcast producers. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Voices of a Killer, and to this, part 2 of this episode focused on Hannah, the daughter of Pamela Fregia. When we last left off, Hannah was detailing the day of the tragic murder of Victoria Perez. Lured from the hospital back to Pamela's house, 10-year-old Hannah witnessed this brutal and senseless act at the hands of her mother. Now we will hear Hannah tell her first-hand experience of that traumatic and tragic act on this episode of Voices of a Killer.
So whenever y'all got there, how long was it till y'all showed up at the house that she, went ahead and attacked her?
I would say about 20 or 30 minutes most, because my grandma had actually came and dropped my siblings off and my little cousin. She came and dropped them off.
So besides you, the victim, and your mother, how many other people were there too?
No, it was just her, me, and my other siblings, my little brother, my little sister, and Bryce.
And where were you whenever she attacked?
We was all sitting in the living room, and she was like, me and my sister was sitting there, and the lady was walking down the hall, and Pam walked behind her. Yes.
Okay.
And Pam walked behind her, and she had a hammer behind her behind her back. And I looked at my sister, and I was like, what is she doing? And so we was like just sitting there, and then all of a sudden we just started hearing the lady scream. And me and Lindsay got up and went to the back, and Pam was over her, hitting her in the head. And she looked at us and just slammed the door. And me and my sister was just standing there crying.
Wow, that is intense. So let me ask you, did you actually see your mother hit this victim over the head, Victoria?
Yes, I did.
Sure. So after she slammed the door, how long did you continue to hear the screaming?
It was like 15 minutes, and then Pam came out the room covered in blood. She was crying, and the lady, she was just like making like gargling sounds like she was still alive. Wow. Like I would remember that to this day. Like it was so traumatic.
So after your mother killed this girl and she came out breathing hard, probably, and blood all over her, you said she started crying?
Yeah, she was crying, and then she told us that if we told anybody that she would kill us.
Did y'all go back there and look at the body, like check everything out? Were y'all allowed to do that?
She actually moved her in the hallway, and we could see the body. Was
it still alive when she moved it? Still struggling?
Yeah, she was still alive. Like she was making like gargling sounds, like she was trying to breathe.
How long did that last? I mean, how did she finish her off? Did she continue hitting her again, or what happened?
She just left her there until like she just stopped.
She just finally passed away.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so traumatic. I could feel it, you know what I mean? So she's in the hallway and she finally passes away. Y'all are probably still just completely shocked over this. I mean, this is a traumatic thing.
Hannah points out that it was Pamela who murdered Victoria. This is something that must have been so horrific for a child to witness. It is difficult to wrap your head around, and her ability to retell these details takes true bravery. In her episode, Pamela claimed that it was Joker who murdered Victoria and that she was not at the house at the time of the murder. Rather, that she went to her mother's house while Joker and Victoria smoked synthetic marijuana together. Apparently, the whole reason Victoria was at Pamela's house in the first place. We now know that Joker was more than likely her estranged husband Clyde, who at the time was away in Texas. So even if this Joker did exist, Pamela's decision to not only leave Victoria, but Hannah and the other children in her home in Joker's care is an odd one. According to Pamela, she had limited knowledge of who Joker was, so surely leaving her cousin with this strange man might have been risky. Nevertheless, in her story, Pamela returned back to the house to find a scene of horror. Let's listen back to hear Pamela's take on the story.
You go back to the house where Joker and the victim is? What'd you see?
When I went in, it was like quiet in there, so I was like, hello, and nobody was in there. I went in my room, and Victoria was on my floor, and it was blood everywhere.
In the living room, in your bedroom? kitchen?
My bedroom.
She was dead?
Yeah, I guess.
You guess?
Looks dead to me. Yes.
Okay, so she's dead in your bedroom. What's your reaction?
I started screaming, and I grabbed my phone, and he threw my phone down, and...
Joker threw your phone down?
Yes.
What's he saying to you while you're screaming?
He just shut up, and he was cussing me and everything, and I was like...
What are the kids
just
doing?
Freaking out. They were in the living room watching TV. I just turned the cartoons on for them.
Certainly they're watching TV and they're hearing you screaming about a dead body. They didn't break free from the TV?
Yes.
Okay.
Hannah.
Did they run back to the bedroom?
Yes, Hannah did.
She see the dead body?
Yes.
What was her reaction? How old is she?
I think she was around 10 maybe, or 11.
Okay,
10.
so she's 10 or under. Did she understand that there was a dead body?
Yes, I'm sure she did.
Okay. What's her reaction?
She didn't do anything, and I was just like, oh my God, and I just left out of the bedroom, and I took her back in the living room, and I was sitting on the couch holding her, and he comes in there, and he starts hollering and stuff, and I just was freaking out.
Okay, so most of the time when people see a dead body, comforting the kids is one of those things that's happened. But the next thing that they do is they pick up the phone, they call police, they call ambulance. Yes. When did that occur? Did y'all call the police or anything?
No, he had threw my phone down and broke it.
Okay. Did you think about taking the kids and running? What happened next?
Yes, I did think about it, but he told me we couldn't leave.
So did you at any point go, what happened? Why is there a dead body in my room?
Yeah, I didn't say anything, actually. I just sat there and held my kids.
So tell me what happens next. What's his demeanor, Joker?
He was running around back and forth to the living room and back to my bedroom. And so finally he was like, come here. So I was like, no. And he said, come here. And I went in there and he's like, help me. And I was like, no. And so then he was like, well, you're going to go to jail for this is your house. And I was like, so I helped him clean up everything.
Why did you help him clean up a murder?
Because he said it was in my house and it freaked me out. I'd never been in trouble and it just freaked me out really bad.
So what does this body look like when you see it on the floor? Is it peaceful looking? Is it stabbed to death and look like a tragedy just happened? What does it look like?
No, she just had a shot on her, like a red spot on her chest. And there was blood all over my floor, and it was just like a big puddle of blood on the floor.
So at what point did you say, Joker, why did you shoot this girl?
I never did.
Or is she face up?
Yes.
It looks like she's been shot in that room?
Yes.
You never asked why, and you cleaned up the body?
I didn't. I never asked why because I was scared, and I was wondering if he was going to do the same thing to me and my kids. I didn't know.
Listening back to Pamela's episode again, it's eerie to hear her reference Hannah, the now grown woman we are speaking to as a 10-year-old child. Hannah's vivid recollection paints a horrific scene. Pamela attacking Victoria with a hammer while Hannah and her siblings watched in terror. According to Hannah, the brutality and immediate aftermath, including Pamela's threat to kill them if they told anyone, are etched deeply into her memory. This account is starkly different from Pamela's, who claims she returned home to find Victoria already dead and a man named Joker threatening her. Pamela's story is filled with inconsistencies, especially with the questionable presence of Joker and that a gun was used to kill Victoria. Hannah's detailed account, contrasted with Pamela's vague and shifting narrative, suggests a deeper truth rooted in Hannah's traumatic childhood memories. Studies show that childhood trauma can enhance memory accuracy for traumatic events. According to the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, traumatic experiences can lead to vivid and detailed recollections due to the intense emotional impact. This makes Hannah's account not only plausible, but likely more accurate, highlighting the devastating effects of witnessing such violence at a young age. After the break, Hannah tells us what really happened during the aftermath of this tragic event.
So what's the next step after she passes away in the hallway?
Pam gets her, wrapped her up in a blanket and puts her in a box, like a plastic box. And she moved her car to the back of the yard and like brings her out the back door and puts her in the trunk. And when she puts her in the trunk, she brings like me, all of us to this like river bridge, and she puts the lady in there, like she sets her on fire.
Wow. So y'all watched her light she like put like gas or something on it?
Yeah, she did. She put gas on her.
So one of the things that made me want to believe that Pamela had some kind of help is because the body was moved from where it was killed, and bodies dead weight is really hard for somebody to move, especially a woman, and then especially a pregnant woman she's trying to move. Is Pamela a strong woman? How did she handle all that?
Nobody was there to help her. Literally, nobody.
Okay. No, I know. I believe you. I just, from the beginning of the story, it's like, yeah, bodies aren't, especially picking up, putting it in a trunk and taking it out of a house, that's a big deal, especially for a woman. A strange sight to see where somebody's trying to get a whole body in the vehicle while their kids are watching.
I guess she just had so much adrenaline from what happened that she was able to, I don't know, but there was nobody there to help her.
So after she burned the body, and I guess she gets in the car, what's you remember whenever she gets in the car? What do you remember about that little time period? What did she say or do?
She really didn't say too much of anything. We just went to the bridge, and she got it was like darker, and she got the lady out, and like it was like in like a seclusion, like more of a seclusion area, like off of the bridge, and she just set the lady on fire, and this truck started pulling up back there, and she like hurried up and put it out.
What started happening before she put it out? What's that?
Like a truck started coming back, to go to the river, and she hurried up and put like the fire out and put the lady back in the box.
Wow. Gosh. She must have been like just frantic doing all this, right?
I'm guessing because she just I don't know.
What did she do after she put the burnt body back in the box?
She puts her back in the trunk, and then we go down the road.
Wow.
And she puts her in so my aunt owns like property, and like it's like a secluded area, like in the woods. She gets out.
I'm from Louisiana, and I know that part of the wood. It's all pine trees and just a lot.
Yeah,
I know that. Okay, go ahead.
So she puts the lady like deep in the woods. Like that night, she puts her in the woods, and then after that, she just leaves her there for a month.
Hannah recounts in vivid detail how Pamela wrapped Victoria's body in a blanket, placed it in a plastic box, and transported it to a secluded river bridge. There, Pamela attempted to burn the body, only to extinguish the fire and conceal the remains when a truck approached. Eventually, Pamela moved the body to her aunt's secluded property, leaving it there for a month. Pamela's account, however, tells a different story. She claims that Joker orchestrated the disposal. According to Pamela, she helped Joker move the body, wrapped in a blanket, out of the house and into the trunk of a car. Pamela describes driving with Joker and the kids to a remote location where Joker buried the body while she stood by, terrified and compliant. Let's listen back to that part of Pamela's episode now.
So at no point in time you were like, let's make up a plan. I'm going to grab the kids and get away and run to the police?
No.
Okay, so after everything's discovered, who came up with the plan? Joker's like, we got to bury her? We got to burn her?
Bury her, yeah.
So you help him move the body around?
Yeah, we got a blanket and put her on the blanket and carried her out.
And where were the kids?
They were in the living room.
And they knew that one of them saw that there was a dead body, right? So she knew what y'all were doing was putting a dead body.
She didn't know what we were doing because she knew she had seen, and she didn't see us take her out to the car.
So your daughter that saw that there was a dead body didn't know what was happening afterwards. So somewhere along the line, there was a dead body in my room. Like,
yep.
And did she never question the next day? So what happened to that girl that was dead in your room?
No, she never asked.
You and Joker put her on a blanket, the victim, and you pick up this blanket with a dead body on it and you shuffle him through the house?
Yes.
When you shuffle this body through the house, are the kids seeing you holding a blanket with a body on it?
No, they didn't see that.
And y'all go outside? How far away from the house did you go with this victim?
My car was parked in the back of my house, and He picked her up, put her in the trunk.
So you got to the car, but you delivered it to the back of the car, and then he lifted her up, puts her in the trunk, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there a time where you say, so what happened?
I never said anything.
You never asked, why did you kill this woman?
I never said anything because I was afraid of him.
Why were you afraid of
We've never been around anything like that.
Okay, so he puts her in the trunk. He shuts the trunk. What happens after that?
He leaves in my car.
So he takes her in your car. He drives away with the dead body?
We all got in the car and we all left.
You and the kids got in the car with the dead body?
Yes. We rode down by the river. There's a river not far from where I live. And
Is he saying anything on the way?
no.
Are you freaked out?
Yeah, I was really freaked out.
What did the kid, like the oldest one, the one that saw the body probably knows that?
We were just sitting in the back seat, and I had my son on my lap, and my daughters were on both sides of me, and I had my arms wrapped around.
The one that saw the body, though, she was a little bit more mature, and kids are really resilient. And pick up on things. Did she know that there was something really bad going on?
I feel like she knew something was going on because I would never let anyone drive my car.
And y'all drove how far away from the house?
Oh, 5 miles maybe.
And then y'all got out?
Yep.
The kids stayed in the car?
Yeah.
And what'd y'all do? Y'all took the body out?
No, he got out and he told me to get out, so I got out and he was like, "Are you going to call the cops?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to call the cops." And I wanted to call the cops, but I didn't have a phone.
You were scared?
So he was like, yeah, and he was like just running around the car, and I was sitting there crying, and I was like, "You just let us leave." And I said, "You could just take my car." And he was like, "No, just shut the F up." And I just was ready to go. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I was scared for my kids. I was just like,
so
my car.
Y'all are outside of the car talking about this?
Yeah.
At what point did y'all open up the trunk?
He didn't open up the trunk. We drove to the land, and he looked around out there, and then we went back to my house and got a shovel, and we went back to the land and buried her.
So did y'all still have the kids with you?
Yeah, the whole time.
Y'all pulled the body out with the kids in the car?
Yeah, but it was dark outside, and they didn't see that part.
How far did y'all carry the body from the car to where you buried her?
I don't know how to measure, like 100 feet maybe? I don't know. It was a pretty good weight.
And you just had one shovel, and I guess he dug?
Yeah.
What was the discussion like while he was digging a hole for the victim?
There was none.
Were you just standing with the kids, or were you standing there with him digging the hole, or what?
I was just sitting on the ground.
How long did it take for him to dig that hole?
A while. I don't really know. It was a while.
Like hours?
It felt like it.
Were the kids saying, "Hey, I want to go back to the house, I'm tired"?
No. They had fell asleep in the car.
Okay, so how deep did he dig the hole?
It wasn't that deep.
And she was still in the blanket. You helped him when he was done. You helped him put her in the hole?
Yes.
And then he buried it back, and then you, Joker, and the kids just drove back to the house?
No, he drove to a gas station in Kinder, Louisiana.
He was with y'all and the kids?
Yes. He was driving. And he got out and got in the car with a guy.
So he left?
Yes.
And you take the kids and you drive back to your house?
No. I drove to my birth mom's house because I didn't want to go back to the house.
These discrepancies in Pamela's story are striking and cannot be ignored, particularly given the traumatic nature of the event and the fact that Hannah was just a child when it happened. We must remember that Hannah's young age at the time might influence her recollection, but it also speaks to the profound impact such an experience can have on a child's memory. Her vivid descriptions provide a haunting perspective that challenges Pamela's narrative and raises critical questions about the truth. In our next episode, we will delve deeper into how Hannah and her sister played a crucial role in bringing their mother, Pamela, to justice. Their courage and determination to seek the truth, despite the trauma they endured, are pivotal to understanding the full scope of this tragic case. Join us as we continue to unravel the complexities and uncover the real story behind Victoria Perez's murder on the next episode of Voices of a Killer.
If you want
want to find out what happens next, right now, you can sign up at patreon.com/voicesofakiller. There you can find bonus content, early access, ad-free listening, and access to our chat community. So go to patreon.com/voicesofakiller to sign up now. Your support is what keeps us passionate about bringing these stories to you. That's a wrap on this episode of Voices of a Killer. A big shout out to Sonic Futures, who handled the production, audio editing, music licensing, and promotion of this podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, make sure to visit our website at voicesofakiller.com. There you can find previous episodes, transcripts, and additional information about the podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback helps us improve and reach new listeners. Thank you for your support, and we can't wait to share more stories with you in the future. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Toby, and we'll see you next time on Voices of a Killer.